turn to share with your friends. Take this link, take that little share button and share it on your pages with your friends and letting everybody know that Mario is in the classroom. We have our teacher, Mario Fabbri, in the classroom today. We're going to continue the theme about going vegan with Mario Fabbri. Okay, so it is time for me to start my record button because I know I'm going to hear Robert say, start the recorder. There we go. Okay, it is time for us to start the mindset. As you know, the mindset is very important. And instead of going, ew, I don't even want to think about this, I want us all to be curious today. So get in the moment. And how do we get in the moment? It's time to dance. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can turn to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. As you all know, back in 2013, I was challenged to go raw vegan. And I said, as long as it doesn't harm my body and it is fully legal, bring it. I can do anything for 1 month. So I started my journey. After 4 days of trying vegan, I felt really, really good. But here's the deal. I didn't feel bad. I didn't know I could feel better. That feeling better was the journey that triggered me forward to going, if they lied to me about food and food makes me feel this good, what else did they lie to me about? It completely changed my life. It completely has changed my health, and the medications that I've taken, they're gone. All those things just because I was curious and accepted a challenge. As you know, we're going to do the 30-day challenge. And so in my journey, I have come across teachers that have taught me some great truths about nutrition and health and wellness, mind, body, spirit, all those things. And I truly believe the classroom has saved my life because of being curious instead of critical. Because prior to that, bring it, I would have thought the person I am today was a nut job. But let me tell you, if I'm going to be called a nut, a health nut is good enough. And so I stumbled upon Mario Fabbri, who had kind of a story that intrigued me. First of all, he's as cute as a button. He's as kind as a gentle spirit can be. And he was in a very similar journey, but in his family, Sausage King, they were the Sausage Kings, and he was going to be taking over this company someday. Well, Mario is back. It's been since 2019 since we have reconnected, since we've seen each other. And he is back to tell you about his journey back then, where he's at today, and why he may not be taking over the family sausage business. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Mario Fabbri is back to do just that. Welcome, Mario, to the classroom.
Thank you so much for having me. Your energy is just electric and it is waking me up this morning. And thank you so much for having me once again to talk about these things. And 100%, you're right. I've gone from one end of the spectrum completely to the other unexpectedly. You know, I used to be the person who was judging the person who I am today, and now I'm the person who's trying to teach the person who I used to be. So the synchronicity is incredible, and I feel like I'm in the right place.
You know, it's so funny because I felt like I adopted you when you first came in the classroom in 2018, and we did several classes together. And by the way, next week, I'm going to highlight one of those shows. And Mario has agreed to be one of our teachers doing our 30-day raw vegan challenge. So everybody who is going to be a part of that on Tuesday nights, we are going to, from 7 to 9, come together, swap recipes, talk about the experience, the judgments that you might perceive, because by the way, those are the same judgments that you gave. Are you going to be receiving them back? And how do you receive them back? We're going to work on the mindset, spirit, mind, and body. This isn't just about eating raw vegan or strange or weird or whatever. This is really, truly about understanding how food is medicine. So Mario, when you decided to try vegan, what were your circumstances at the time?
So when I started trying vegan, I was actually in a great place. I wasn't suffering from any ailments. I wasn't sick. I can't bring up some specific story that made me realize that I wasn't reaching my full potential, because at the time I was way younger. I totally thought I had the world figured out. But I had to learn through one of my friends. I saw one of my friends lose about 100 pounds by switching to a nutrient-dense plant-based diet. And it made me completely rethink the entire food system at the time. Backing up, as a kid, my dad owned an Italian sausage factory. Ever since I could walk, I'd go and stay with him at work. It was a family space. It was a fun space. I'd be eating food right off of the machines. And I'd had this vision that I would take over my dad's Italian sausage factory. And I lived my first 18 years of my life with that goal, with that expectation, and sometimes with that pressure that this is a family business that we want to continue on with the family. So even when I was 18, deciding whether or not I should go to college or start taking over the family business, that was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. I chose to go to college so that I could start figuring out my own path. I didn't complete college, and that's a whole other story. And I can give a lot of advice on kids that are thinking about dropping out of school and reasons to do so, reasons to not do so. It worked out in my favor. But through that journey of self-exploration, I met a friend who lost about 100 pounds switching to a plant-based diet. I started reading books that other people were doing the same things. So I decided maybe I shouldn't have sausage, egg, and cheese for breakfast every single morning, and see what would happen if I changed the way that I ate. Started having smoothies for breakfast. Who would have thought? And by the time I was eating smoothies and having oatmeal and having plant-based protein shakes, I realized that that drag that I used to have throughout the day that I thought was just human nature was completely wiped away. So what I thought was the 2 o'clock necessary nap that I had to take was completely gone. And I was thriving from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and noticed that my energy was like at a peak. And I realized that not a lot of people had learned about this, especially people my age. Nobody around me. I was living in Boulder, Colorado. It was a total college town. And all the food on campus was complete junk. So it became my mission to try and relate to the people around me on campus and see if they could have a similar experience. People that maybe didn't realize that they were hurting themselves from the inside out, but take those people and see if I could actually help them take a leap higher, take a leap further physically, and then it becomes mental, then it becomes conscientiously, and it just spreads through all the other areas of their life. So that's the start that I had to take, and that's the journey that I had to take to get to where I am today.
And that's a beautiful journey, Mario. And as you were, I remember when you first came on, you had just begun your journey. You were still, new. And I have never said that I am a complete vegan. Once in a while, I will have some animal products, but my roots, and it was going raw vegan. That's when my journey began. And from that 30-day challenge, I ate raw vegan for 3 years. Then I met Dr. Joel Furman, and I started balancing and looking at nutrients and what is it that I am taking in. And so my body's been calling me to go back to the raw vegan roots that prompted my awareness, that took the veil out of my eyes and say, wow, what else is out there? Water, who knew water could be that important? Go ahead. What do you want to say about that?
No, it's just our body is 70% water, and we don't even think about it. And especially I live in LA, where there's a constant conversation about the quality of water. We all got our water filters. I'm trying to figure out what's the best water filter.
Me too. Yeah.
So it's underrated that the thing that fills us is the thing that sometimes we think the least about. So yeah, I know people that drink Coca-Cola for three of their drinks a day, and they don't even drink water. It's absurd to me. But everybody starts somewhere, and I've definitely been in that place.
Exactly. I remember trying to wean myself from Diet Coke, and I would always go back. I don't know, there was something that wanted me to wean off of Diet Coke. I could never tolerate regular Coke. So I was trying to wean off of it. And then once in a while I would have a Coke again. And then I would get back into that drinking a soda at least once a day or once a week or whatever. It wasn't the more I weaned myself off, the easier it was if I fell and come back. And when I discovered how acidic and what it was doing to my stomach, plus the aspartame, never looked back again. Once you know better, you do better. And I really do believe that the reason why we're so protective of the way that our parents taught us to eat, or the way we currently eat, is because we don't know and we don't want to know. But once you find out what these truths are, and you continue to assault your body, that's when we really need to align our intention with what we truly want. I've seen, Mario, and I don't know if we talked about this the last couple times that you were on. My mom and dad have been the greatest teachers that I've ever had. But here's the thing about teachers. They teach us what to do and what not to do, how to be, how not to be. So I'm witnessing my parents now. My mom is 87. My dad is 91. Dementia, decline, the stuff that we see as typical doesn't have to be that way. What has been for you, like I really, it's not about not being that way and focusing on what you don't want. As a coach, I focus on what I want. Mm-hmm. And so what I want is health. And so there are people that want to try the raw vegan challenge because they want to lose weight. And to me, we don't lose anything, because you always find things you lose. We release it, but it's beyond releasing weight. It's about getting healthy. It's about feeling better. So for you, what is your motivation today? Who are those teachers in your life that you see today and you go, I know that if I continue this way, this is how it might be for me, but I will choose a different path. It might still lead me in the same direction, but at least I tried something different.
Well, one thing you mentioned that's so important to me is curiosity. You talk a lot about curiosity and asking questions. So one of the greatest TED Talks I ever listened to was called Schools Kill Your Creativity. And Sir Ken Robinson is one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time. He gets into how, as a kid, we have so many questions, we have so many curiosities, we have so many thoughts. And as soon as we start getting told no, or we don't get answers to the questions that we have, we lose our curiosity, we lose our creativity. So I think one of the biggest things is having an arc in your life where you return to that childhood level of curiosity and creativity, and you start asking those questions again that you didn't get answers to. So many times we see somebody doing something and we just assume we can't do it, like sewing or juggling, the most basic, obvious, random things that you look at and you're like, oh, I could never do that. But have you ever actually thought about how things are made, how you could actually learn these skills? And I believe everybody is capable of learning new skills and learning new hobbies and learning new information that can make you a better person. So I think curiosity has been a huge one. And just to kind of answer the question, but also do a little bit of a segue, you mentioned I'm going to be on April 19th. We're going to be doing these teaching classes. We're going to be talking about raw vegan. I love getting curious in the kitchen. So I do stuff like I make these little homemade fruit roll-up wraps right here. And this one, I don't know if people are listening or seeing visually, it is a fruit leather. It's circular and it has little black spots on it. It's kind of like white and see-through. And this is dragon fruit. So this is just a blended and dehydrated dragon fruit turned into a fruit roll-up texture. You could see, you could just roll up just as easily as a fruit roll-up that I had when I was a kid. And I'm trying to find ways that I could take those things that really excited me as a kid, inspire some creativity, some curiosity. You can get so colorful, you can get so creative with these recipes. You just blend something together, you make your smoothie, throw it in the dehydrator, and you let it go overnight. In the morning, you have a chewy texture, something that's reminiscent of like a Laffy Taffy or an Airhead for adults and for kids. And I love doing stuff like that. So once I was able to find my curiosity, my creativity once again, I figured out all the different things that I actually do in the kitchen to enjoy this process, because that's a big part of it. A lot of people don't know where to begin. A lot of people don't necessarily know what foods they're going to enjoy, because, I mean, think about it. If you're eating animal-based products, especially in the United States, at least 40% of the food that you're eating has animal products. How do you get rid of that 40% and replace it with something new? That's a big part of your day. That's a big part of your convenience. Sometimes it takes a little bit of curiosity and creativity to inspire you to actually want to do it. Find something that you love, turn it into a hobby, and then turn it into a lifestyle that's actually going to make you live longer and be healthier. Because I'm not a doctor. I do a ton of research, especially per Lillian's advice. I remember one of the first times I was on the show, she mentioned you have to research for at least 3 hours before you say anything. I think is a lost art today. It's absolutely absurd. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but do your research and find something that inspires you to be a little bit more creative in the kitchen. Dehydrating foods is just one of the many ways, and that's something that I'll be talking more about on our future teaching lesson. But that's something. And then another thing you mentioned was, who are the people that you look up to, the role models? You mentioned a big one, Dr. Joel Furman. He was one of the first people that I collaborated with on one of my cooking shows as well. And he just showed me the world of possibilities and the culture of possibilities of other people who are doing these types of things. Leads me to Dr. Michael Greger, leads me to different documentaries, What the Health, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, some of these other documentaries that get into other aspects of eating plant-based. But I think having those role models and having people pave the way before us like you is so important for the next generation. But find something that inspires your creativity and become obsessed with it. And that will replace that necessity for those unhealthy foods.
Great advice, Mario, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. As you started your challenge, or you trying little by little, seeing and witnessing your friend release 100 pounds, what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome?
The obstacles I had to overcome were family dynamics and expectations and stigma. Those were three things at the time. It wasn't cool to be vegan. It wasn't cool to eat plant-based, and it wasn't convenient, and it wasn't affordable. And it ruined a lot of holiday meals with my family, because I'd come home from Boulder, Colorado, the crunchiest place on the planet. And I remember coming home for Christmas, and my dad was making a pineapple upside down cake. It was my grandma's famous pineapple upside down cake recipe. Absolutely delicious. It was a holiday treat. And then I walk in the kitchen and I'm like, we can't use butter in this recipe. He's like, son, who are you? We've been doing this for 40, 50 years. You can't just come home and change this family dynamic. It's his favorite part of the holiday. So you got to find that balance of figuring out ways to relate and bring people into your world slowly but surely. So I think one of the biggest obstacles was finding people around me who actually agree and are as curious as I am, rather than trying to force it on the people who I was already surrounded by. So that's where just events, vegan festivals, food festivals, trade shows, conversations, meet people. There's other people out there who have a similar passion to this, or could at least teach you enough so that you can make the decisions for yourselves and not feel like you're constantly debating with people. Because once you don't have the tools to debate, you're going to lose those every time. Somebody asks where you get protein, you're going to pause, you're stuck. You don't know how to say, we get plenty of protein from plants. And if you are trying to get more protein, here's a few plants that have more of it. You know, you could eat quinoa for your essential amino acids. You eat nuts and seeds. Those aren't the highest protein, but they have more protein than a piece of broccoli. So you find ways to learn in a way that feels safe and comfortable.
Yes. And, you know, since I've met with you last in 2019, you have actually become Chef Mario. Do they call you Chef Fabbri or Chef Mario? What's your?
I like Chef Mario. I've been
Yeah.
running with the Mario thing. There aren't too many Marios out there. People
Yeah.
think of the video game. So
Yeah.
it's stuck. I like it.
Yeah, I could never get past phase one on the Mario Brothers. I could never get past. My kids would laugh at me just to see me bump into walls and whatever.
Oh,
I
God.
never got bad, but I know the games that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But so as when you went to, I mean, when you went back to learn a little bit more about it, what did you discover? What was your biggest discovery? Because for me, it was beans. I didn't realize that beans was like the perfect food because it has fiber, it's a carb that doesn't get processed as a carb, and it has lots of protein in it. So, I mean, that was one of my like, wow, who knew? And you can do a lot of things with beans. So what was your biggest takeaway as you went back and started really learning about food? What was your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway was meal prep. And a lot of that involved quinoa and vegetables. It was how can I make something that I could eat every single day for lunch and not have to think about it? Because that was the inconvenience, was having to think about my food every single day and having to go into a grocery store and not knowing what to get. So I think it was finding one staple and then repeating it. Become an expert at one thing and take it one meal at a time. So my thought was, how do I improve my lunch? Where do I go from here? Tried a ton of stuff, found out I really like quinoa. So cook quinoa, it's super simple. Use 2 cups of water to 1 cup of quinoa. You cook it just like rice in a pot. You bring the water to a boil. You add in the quinoa. The quinoa is going to absorb all the water. Then you have this big pot of quinoa. Then stir fry some vegetables on the side. Whatever you got. It could be broccoli. It could be peas, cauliflower, onions, whatever vegetables you have around the house, or go to the farmer's market, grab a bundle of them. Cook your vegetables, add them to that pot of quinoa, throw that in the refrigerator, and you could have that for lunch every single day that week. So it was all about just eliminating one meal at a time, simplifying my day, one step at a time. Then once I figured out lunch, let's attack breakfast, let's attack dinner. And now I have 3 staples for each of those. I could wake up at any time without even having to think about it. So one at a time.
That. I love that. You know, when I first started eating raw vegan, one thing I discovered is there was never a bad recipe. You always create a new one. So if you mess it up and you try and you go, oh, this is good. Now I've got another recipe. So eating raw vegan has a responsibility. And I'm going to show you another benefit to eating raw vegan. Not that I want anybody to continue eating raw vegan. I am just wanting people to understand that processed foods, and there's certain levels of when you heat your foods that it loses the nutrients, but working with an oven can cause this to happen.
Oh,
yeah. I'm dealing with this burn now.
How fresh is that?
I think it happened on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, it happened on Saturday. I was preparing food for my grandchildren. And of course, I've stopped fighting. And so I prepare what they want. And, but I prepare it in a healthier way. Mm-hmm. So this particular day, I put their food in the stove and I realized, oh, this has gluten in it. I don't cook with gluten. I don't have it. And so I had put it on the top shelf rack of the stove or the oven. And I realized now I'm going to make something for Robert and I. And so I took the top rack, took it out. And what I was doing in the oven was like 450 degrees for the kids. Imagine how much nutrients it has. And you take it out and you put it in a center rack. And I took the bottom rack out. And when I went back to take it out, it stuck. The rack that was in the oven just stuck on me. And it's like you feel something and the nerve endings are going, what happened here? And so that's what happened. And then the Monday after the children left, and let me tell you, I prepare as healthy food as I can for the children. But that at that moment, this is what they wanted. And I believe their mother brought me this thing, and it had gluten in it. But like I said, I don't prepare foods like this, but I did have it in the oven. And look, it doesn't just hurt your body. It hurts your body when you get burned with the oven. So it's another reason to go raw vegan for just 1 month. So you
won't
just
burn yourself.
Yeah, you won't, because that's the beauty of it. You prepare the foods like with that wrap. Show us the what's it called? The fruit. The fruit?
Dragon fruit.
Dragon fruit. I couldn't remember the name. You blend it, you dehydrate, you mix it, and let's talk about how you prepare this, because I have been so intimidated with dehydrators.
Yep.
So I want to learn how to dehydrate, which you can dehydrate and keep it raw vegan. So share a little bit about how you do this and how you would make a meal or a breakfast treat with it.
Yes. So you mentioned raw vegan. So when you're dehydrating foods, a big piece of advice that I've found through the research I've done online is that at about 117 degrees Fahrenheit, once you get over that temperature, you start killing some of the nutrition. So you start killing vitamin C, you start killing, I think vitamin A is another one that starts to die quickly. So you want to keep it under 117 degrees Fahrenheit. That just means you need to dehydrate your food longer. And I have right here, see if I could get it up into the shot. This is my dehydrator mechanism right here. It looks like
What do you have?
This is called the Sahara Dehydrator. It is made by Broad & Taylor. They're one of my sponsors. Sponsor shout out.
Yes.
But to the fairness of sponsors, I actually reached out to them. They didn't reach out to me and offer me money. I actually reached out to them and said, hey, I use your product. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. Is there any way I can make videos for you? So we have a very good and mutual relationship. So to make a dragon fruit wrap is super simple, or any wrap. You could basically blend what you would put into a smoothie. So I just took the dragon fruit, put it in a blender, and then I pour it on one of these dehydrator sheets and pour it on top. It's kind of this wet little circular mess, and then you dehydrate it overnight, 117 degrees for about like 12 hours. And then the result is something like this. And you can see it kind of peels and tears and chews, and it's a candy way to eat fruit. Tastes more like candy. Kids love it. You can do the same thing with mangoes, watermelon, any fruit you could ever imagine. And you can make some really interesting textures out of fruit. It's a great way to get fruit. It's a great way to get kids to start enjoying fruit. And then if you want to expand and get a little bit more creative from there, you could take cauliflower and you could season it with a little bit of spices or some hot sauce. Throw the cauliflower in there. It's not like the fried cauliflower wings that are so popular in vegan cooking. It's a totally different texture. It's a little bit more of a jerky bite to it, but it's absolutely delicious. You can do the same thing with mushrooms. You can take an oyster mushroom, slice it thinly, marinate it in some seasonings, put it in the dehydrator. It'll come out and it'll be crispy and chewy at the same time and have amazing textures. So there's so many different things you could do. And dehydrators also are very popular in the world of camping. I haven't really gotten into this, but you could essentially take, and this isn't raw vegan, but you could essentially take any dinner, say a curry or a risotto, and you could dehydrate it. What that's going to do is it's going to preserve its lifespan, because you remove all the water, and water is what the mold is going to thrive off of and grow and kill the food. It's like astronaut food. So you dehydrate all the water so that it lasts a really long time. And then let's say you're on a hike and you're camping and you got your dehydrated curry, you could throw it in a pot with a little bit more water, bring it back to life. And that's one of the most popular uses for dehydrators right now. But I'm trying to bring it into this raw vegan health world with stuff like the dragon fruit wrap.
Yeah, and you can add bananas, you can add strawberries, blueberries, and you can nut butters. You can take a raw cashew and you can blend it and make it a raw nut. You see, the problem is we've gotten very comfortable going to the grocery store and buying foods that are saturated with salt and sugar and oils. And these nuts have its natural oil, and I'll go and I'll get a raw or a nut, and then it'll say dry roasted, and then it'll say, let's say if it's cashew, it'll say peanut oil. Like, what is peanut oil doing on a cashew?
Yep.
There's no need for that. So we've got to get really smart. And by the way, for those of you who have any questions for Mario, please type in a Q, write your questions down. And if you have any questions, we can ask them after in the Teacher's Pet Corner. So Mario, were you intimidated when you first started dehydrating? Now, I've heard that 115 is that threshold, but when you are dealing with dehydrators, sometimes their temperatures might vary. I've been told you put it at 120 and it still doesn't cook at a higher temperature. So 115 is more or less that threshold for raw, but or maybe I just prefer, I don't remember, but I usually keep it at 115 and then I dehydrate for a lot longer. But when I started watching your videos on Instagram and what else can I dehydrate? What else can I dehydrate? I thought, what else can I dehydrate it? And I did I dehydrated kiwis, strawberries and bananas for our grandson, who absolutely loved cutting with me. And well, actually, I was the master cutter and he was the master designer, where he was going to put the kiwi and the strawberry. And then we waited for, it was like maybe 20 hours. And we came together and he was just so thrilled that he had this. So I really do believe, Mario, that if we teach children to eat healthy, we would get rid of most diseases. I really do, because they're mostly lifestyle. What do you think of that?
I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think the biggest thing we could do is teach parents how to teach their kids, start them at a young age. And on that note, maybe I could do this when I teach the class with you later on April 19th, is that I've created this little art form where you can create little designs. I don't have an example in front of me, but so picture this, used to be a circle as a circle. And then let's say we were to blend up some blueberries and we put them in a little like spreader jar. You could actually draw a little smiley face on top of this and then dehydrate it, and you have a little smiley face.
Oh, I need to do that next time.
Faces, you could draw a little house. You know, your kids are in their own little paint class, but they're painting with blueberries and dragon fruit. You throw it overnight and it's like a pretty cool art project. So I just have been figuring out the best ways to do that and the best fruits and vegetables to cross paths. But especially like if you want to make a smiley face, you dehydrate mango in the form of a circle, then you use something blue to actually draw in the art, and suddenly you're painting emojis with fruit. So you're having fun and you're getting the kids entertained. So I love how you brought the kids into it. They get to do their own designs. I could show you how you could take that to the next level and turn it into a Sunday art class for the kids. But that's something that I love doing is teaching kids these little techniques to have fun in the kitchen.
I can just imagine you doing that. And fruit roll-ups are so full of sugar and high fructose corn syrup.
Yep.
And let's add some more syrup and more sugar. And let's call it coconut sugar, or let's call it, stevia. Let's call it whatever. It's still processed.
Yeah.
The fruit has its natural everything. It has its natural everything. What has been because I was watching your TED Talk, which by the way, you did a great job.
Yeah.
What has been, I noticed that you're passionate now about, because I live in a condo that I can't do composting, but I heard you talk about dehydrating the peel. So talk a little bit how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so I just think food waste is such an interesting issue because it's something that a lot of us don't think about. And a lot of us don't think that we're responsible for food waste. When I first thought of food waste, I used to think of grocery stores over ordering and underselling and then throwing away all their leftover food in a dumpster behind the grocery store.
Yeah.
But that's actually not the biggest issue with food waste. So Americans waste about like 30%, almost 40% of our food. And a lot of that actually happens at home. So picture yourself going to the grocery store, you buy 3 bags of groceries, and it's practically like throwing one of those bags of groceries into the trash. That's how much food we're wasting. We're buying 3 and we're throwing away 1. We don't realize it because it happens in the form of a banana that gets too brown. And then we're just looking at it and we tell ourselves we're going to eat that banana tomorrow, but we never do. And then it gets too brown. And then you end up throwing that banana in the trash. So that's one of the biggest contributors to food waste. So I've been trying to figure out different ways that we can get creative with our food waste, get a little bit more scrappy in the kitchen, a little bit more useful. So one thing you could do is you can dehydrate your banana peels And the potassium is actually great nutrition for plants. And you could do this with a lot of different types of peels. So you guys have probably all even actually seen a dehydrated banana peel, because the dehydration happens naturally outside. If you go to a country like India, they don't have dehydrators. They just have like outdoor greenhouses for dehydration. They just have sheets, they leave them outside and they come back 2 days later. They don't even use electricity. That's actually the most efficient way to do it, is if you live in a good climate, you don't even need to use electricity to do this. But if you've ever seen a banana peel that was left out and it's on the sidewalk, go and step on it and you'll notice it'll crunch. And that is a dehydrated banana peel, and that is still nutritious for the soil. So if you are dehydrating stuff, you have an extra shelf, you can take your banana peels, throw that in there with everything else, grind it up into a powder, use it to feed your plants, and it's just getting re-involved into the environment, and it's not ending up in a landfill where eventually it'll turn into carbon monoxide and not get accurately processed. So that's one creative way that you could actually reduce your food waste, is by dehydrating your banana peels and using them to feed your plants.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned bananas and being creative with bananas. I have thrown away more bananas than I could ever imagine or even say prior to 2013. They would get like yucky and then I'd throw them away and I'd say, gosh, this is horrible. But at the same time, you just throw it away. What else are you going to do with it?
Yep.
And so now when they get spotty, I go, ooh, take the peel off. I put them in the freezer and I stick all my anything that goes, if anything that's going to go right about to go, I'll just like peel it or clean it, put it in a freezer bag, and I can make broths with my veggies that are about to go bad. Or if I know I'm not going to use that vegetable, I cut it, chop it up, put it in a freezer bag. That's going to be part of my broth. Or a
Yep.
vegetable soup. But with my bananas, oh my gosh, don't you ever throw away a banana around me, because I make the most delicious nice cream. You take and you blend them and then you can add, a little bit of module date. Not that it needs it, but if you want it a little bit sweeter, because most people, their tongues are so coated with sugar that they need a little bit more sweetness. The module date is an incredible sweetener. I don't use sugars at all. I use the module date for any sweetener, and I'll add, if I want to add some cashews, I'll do that. If I want to add avocado, I'll do that. I'll add strawberries, blueberries, mangoes, and make the most delicious dessert right there. No preparation necessary beforehand. Just throw it in a blender. You can't make a mistake. If you add too much coconut water, then it becomes a smoothie.
Yeah.
It's like I learned when I started my journey as a raw vegan, I learned it's okay to make mistakes, because better tasting food comes out of it.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, I have to follow the recipe. No, I don't follow the recipe. There are no recipes. Go ahead, Mario.
I was just gonna say, enough with the recipes.
Yeah.
Once you got a couple of things down, find foods that you enjoy, and you can get creative from there. I think that's a great way to do it. I love what you're doing with bananas. And then just kind of a little segue, something I want to talk about, which I think is super exciting, is, so when I started my show, it was Try and Vegan with Mario. I would invite experts to teach me their best plant-based recipes. I was kind of that Discovery Channel style host where I was asking questions, coming from a place of genuine curiosity and looking for the best recipes that I would enjoy, because I was so used to eating junk food. So I found some recipes, I learned some tips and tricks and techniques, and then I dove into learning how to cook, interning as a chef for all different types of businesses, and eventually coming to this place where I started a catering business. And now I've flipped the script. It used to be other people teaching me vegan food. Now it's me teaching other people vegan food.
That's wonderful.
So one of my goals in life is to incorporate as many influential and like powerful business related people, because I think that the best way to actually change the system, unfortunately, is through the economy. It's supply and demand. It's reducing the cost of goods. It's having investors that see a motivation to invest in these types of products. So one of my favorite episodes that I did recently was I had Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank as a guest on my cooking show. And
wow,
if you've ever seen Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, he's the hard head. He's the guy that's busting you on stage and giving you the hard questions. So I had spoken with his publicist, and she had mentioned that Mr. Wonderful has a family tie to someone who is eating vegan. They do a lot of family dinners. So now he needs a vegan recipe. So he wanted me to teach him a vegan recipe that he could actually cook for his family.
Wow.
This was an honor to do so because I'm a huge admirer of the show. So I taught him the super simple cashew cheese recipe. It's like a basic for vegan cooking. You know, I didn't invent the recipe. I'm just sharing one of the most obvious recipes once you start getting into this cooking. But the way you make it is you take cashews, you soak them in water to soften the texture, leave them in water soaking for about 2 hours, up to 24 hours. Sometimes you could just throw them in the refrigerator overnight. And then the next morning, you're going to prepare the recipe. And for this recipe, everything goes into a blender or food processor. You add 1 cup of cashews that have been soaking in water. You add a 1/3 cup of new water. So get rid of that old water. You add a 1/3 cup of new water, a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, garlic salt or a little bit of salt and some garlic powder, some lemon juice. You can get more creative from there if you want to explore. You could add paprika to give it more flavor. But the basic of it is just those few ingredients. So here I am teaching Mr. Wonderful, a guy that is so intimidating on camera, and I'm giving him this cashew cheese recipe, calling it cheese. I'm expecting every diss that is imaginable, but he actually loved the recipe. And we got into a conversation about how he believes that a big part of the future of investing is investing in for-purpose businesses, businesses that have an environmental incentive, businesses that are trying to improve conditions for their workers, businesses that actually care, that aren't going to compromise their business model to save money. They're not going to find out that they're getting in trouble for using too much white sugar, so they're trying to reinvent white sugar, give it some new flashy name, throw it back in there. No, he said that a big part of what they're looking for is businesses that care. And that shows if you watch more episodes of Shark Tank. I'm noticing more plant-based businesses, more for-purpose businesses, you know, a business that makes jewelry, and then for every sale of jewelry, they gift a piece of jewelry to somebody in need, or somebody who can't afford to, you know, dress up for their wedding or something, some creative way to give back. They're investing in more of those businesses. So that was definitely one of the most exciting full circle moments, was having this investor figure relate to vegan food, enjoy the flavor of the food, actually feed it to his family after the show, and then tell me that he's trying to find investments in more businesses that have this type of a mission. So that was one of those moments when I think of, you know, inspirational people. To me, I didn't expect him to inspire me because I've seen how he could be in the tank. But no, he's got a big heart. And I think the best way to communicate this message is to communicate it to, unfortunately, the people who have the most power and the most say through money, so that we can get the cost of these goods down and we can get them in the front of the shelves when you go to the grocery store. So just want to throw that story in there because it was very inspiring for me. And I think it kind of draws your attention in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah. And, you know, you can have billions of dollars. You can be very influential and have lots of dreams and be able to accomplish many of them. But the moment you get sick, it doesn't matter how much money you have, your life will never be the same. And so there's an Indian proverb, and some people say it's a Chinese proverb, but I've seen it both, that a wealthy person has 1,000 dreams, but a sick person has only one. And we really need to sit with that and really look at our lives. Do we want to wait until we have a diagnosis to make something as wonderful? Like, you know, with cashew is so versatile. You can make desserts with cashews. You can make creams with cashews. A sour cream. I make a sour cream. I make and I'm going to share this recipe for those of you who joined the challenge. You can go to whenyounneedafriend.com. And if you just look for my workshops, although I need to switch that to the New Truth series, but you go to my workshops and go to the 30-day raw vegan challenge, and I'll share with you my Mexican, my walnut taco meat Mexican dish. And it's completely raw vegan and it is delicious. You can eat Italian raw vegan. You can eat, it doesn't have to be rabbit food, or doesn't have to be, you know, salads all the time, salad for breakfast, salad for lunch. Those are the obstacles, our mindset. So please go to whenyounneedafriend.com. And while you're there, please subscribe to my website and like and follow me on social media, including BitChute and Odyssey, which we're trying to build the viewership of that. And I want to also encourage you to check out my sponsors, Dr. Jennifer Grameth and the pharmacy in Merritt Island that is taking medications to a topical level so it doesn't go through your digestive system. And so I just absolutely love my sponsors. Please support them as they're supporting the class. I also have a little shop now bag where you can find the DVDs for, this is all about a spirit, mind, and body, so I don't know if Mario knows this, but we did DVDs with Dr. Lorraine Day, who is a well-known vegan, and Book of Revelation and the 100 Lessons from the Exodus. And those you can get online, or you can also get on DVD. We have so many different workshops, like the gallbladder cleanse. There's so many different things. So there's so many different ways. And one of them is the New True series, I Am the Solution Weekend Workshop. That's a workshop that we work with rewriting the program, Spirit, Mind, and Body. And the next one is April 29th through May 1st. So please check that out. We have the Raw Vegan Challenge, and Mario is going to be one of our teachers that's coming on. And that'll start on May 18th through May 16th. That'll take us through the 11th year, my birthday, and my 11th year in the classroom. And so there's so many different ways we can celebrate. Everybody tells me, oh, you got to die somehow. You're going to die somewhere. You're going to have to die. But my question is, death is unavoidable. My question to you is, how do you want to live? How do you want to live? And I've seen how my parents have lived the last 10 years of their life. 5 years of their life have been a little bit more intense. And, I want to take my last breath after running or dancing with my grandchildren, lay down in bed, and next thing you know, as healthy as can be. I want to die as healthy as I can be, but or as old as I can be, but as young as I can be at the same time. But also another way that you can support the classroom is that you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. So whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, 10 cents, I don't care, whatever you can afford, spirit, mind, and body, time, talent, and treasure, whatever you can afford to give and provide to the classroom is very, very much appreciated. And last but not least, I want to make sure that you check out tryingveganwithmario.com. That's where you can find him. If you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, you got a blog, and that is already linked up to his website. So that's all you have to do when you subscribe to the channel, is just click on the blog and they're there. Mario, is there anything going on that you want to share, that you want, because I know you said that you have a sponsor, which is the Dehydrator. I'm sure you have lots of other sponsors. Where can people find you other than at Trying Vegan with Mario?
Yeah, so I have a Roku channel. It's called Trying Vegan with Mario. If you have Roku, you could download the app and you could download the channel. All those episodes were produced about 2 years ago, but I think they're really relatable because those were before I was vegan, and I was asking a lot of questions that non-vegans have at the time. And I had a lot of excellent guests teaching me recipes. So that's a Roku channel. And then now, with everybody staying indoors and everything being closed down and this whole debacle that we're in, I started making more social media videos, started a TikTok page called @VeganRecipes. I got into TikTok as a complete joke. I got little cousins who do dances on the app. But I started Vegan Recipes and I started posting on there, and I was fortunate enough to grow a following and find out that maybe some of these 14 to 20-year-olds are actually interested in food. Who would have thought? I add in stupid jokes to keep them entertained and tell a lot of dad jokes about chickpeas. I'll save those for another day. So yeah, if you're in the TikTok world, @Vegan Recipes is my page, and follow me on Instagram @Mario Fabbri Chef. And I live in LA, and a big thing that I'm diving into as some of the restrictions get lifted is doing live in-person cooking events and cooking experiences. I'm really trying to craft this very artisanal, specific cooking experience, like a 7-course meal, but picture it at your own home with a chef who's there to explain and teach you how the food is actually prepared, backed with research through doctors who I've vetted, who've given me talking points on the actual ingredients that go into the food. So it's an entire experience. I did one of my first ones recently for a musician, and it went insanely well. We did everything after the Dr. Sebi diet, which I had to do a little bit more research on. But we created an art installation that was also edible, so you could eat off of the art installation and you could learn about the food in the process. So if you're ever in LA and trying to put together an experience, that's certainly something I'm open to. But for the time being, a lot of it's online, a lot of it's just cooking videos, just trying to make as many as we can.
Wow, that's wonderful. And you do a great job. You are a master at putting these videos together. I wish you were part of my team because I really could use some of this expertise that you are just so natural at. So what are some of the other recipes? You mentioned the cheese, but you take that cheese and you take some zucchini noodles, a spiralizer, turn them into noodles, and you can have you can have what do you call it? The white sauce, that cheese sauce.
Alfredo.
Alfredo. You can
Yeah.
make an Alfredo with that.
Yep.
What else can you do with it?
I mean, we got so many different things. Right now I'm doing stuffed shells. So as a kid growing up, Italian stuffed shells was one of my favorite recipes. That's when you have those big, they look like a shell, and you could stuff them with different types of cheeses, and then you could add a sauce on top and bake them in the oven, and they're absolutely delicious. So now I'm stuffing my shells with that cashew cheese, a little bit of sauteed spinach and onion, and then you put those in a baking sheet, add a little sauce on top, throw excuse me.
Bless you.
Sneeze. And then you throw that in the oven, and then you bake that, and that's one of my favorite recipes is the stuffed shells. I got a really good vegan meatball recipe that has a bajillion steps, but it'll test your creativity.
I saw that.
If you want to try that out. So that's on social media as well. But
how good was that compared to a meatball? Because I've tried the meatballs before, and
it's really good. I will say I tried to stay away from textured vegetable protein or using like Beyond Beef as a base for it. So I had to get really creative. So I do think without that elevated scientific approach that you almost need one of these other companies' support to actually create, I think it's a pretty dang good job. It's not a meatball, but it's pretty close.
It looked good.
It looks really good.
You know, I think the trick of eating vegan is the spices and the flavoring, because they bring us back to that childhood comfort, you know? So to share a little bit, growing up Italian with the sausage, and I make a great sausage feel or flavor. I take tofu and I put my rosemary and fennel. That's my base for if I want to make something like a pepper, like a sausagey kind of feel. But so what about you? What are the spices that you must have in the kitchen as you're preparing your food?
I mean, you nailed one of the first ones, which is fennel or anise, which is a similar flavor to fennel, but that is a staple in like all of my dad's Italian sausage recipes. So fennel, anise, paprika, cayenne, garlic powder, those are the essentials that go into like any one of my vegan interpretations when I'm recreating an Italian recipe. So those are the keys.
Yes, I even have my pepperoni, my pepperoni flavor, and I use those spices. I don't use anything fake or additives or fillers because you really don't need them.
Yep.
And it just, but I love the idea, and that's going to be my challenge. You're going to challenge me into dehydrations because I have been so intimidated by it. So I'd love to do some more things with dehydration and the dehydrators. I love how you just blend it. I never even thought blend and pour.
Yep.
How do you make it so circularly? I mean, how do you keep it so like a pancake circle?
Takes a steady hand. Takes practice.
like pancakes.
I got some ovals. I got some Van Gogh distorted dehydrated wraps, but if you want to get the perfect circle, it takes a perfect pour.
So and it's a consistency, I'm sure. You don't want it too runny.
No. Yeah.
And what's the consistency?
You want it even throughout. It can be pretty runny. Like a dragon fruit most fruit is majority water, but a dragon fruit is definitely on the higher percentage. So when I pour the dragon fruit, it's practically water. Like you are shot. You're like, this is never going to work. But it works just fine. So I haven't found consistency to be too much of an issue. The stuff that's hard to dehydrate that you can't is anything that has a lot of fat. So I've like dehydrated avocados, for example. and those went rancid before they even dehydrated. And then some of the oils kind of seep out, because when you're removing the liquid, you're just left with the oil. So like I've experimented, I've dehydrated like a vegan mayonnaise just for people's entertainment, and it just became a puddle of oil after. So nothing with a lot of oil in it will work. But other than that, experiment. It's not a hard science.
You know what? If you go into this saying it's going to be good enough, or I'm curious what would happen, like when we were in science class and mixing things, if you take that approach, it'll be a fun experience. Mario, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to continue our conversation in the Teacher's Pet Corner. So if you're listening on podcast, make sure you join us afterwards to learn. We're going to answer your questions. So hold tight. Please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Mario Fabbri. Thank you so much, Mario. Wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so I have a question, and I'm not sure I have HEME. What's HEME? Do you know what that is? So
heme iron.
Yes, a heme iron. Okay, so it says, how do you get heme iron on a vegan diet?
So I can't speak specifically to heme iron, but I will say that I've done a good job of consulting doctors and getting a multivitamin. So, I mean, the main person that I refer back to is always Dr. Joel Furman. He's set me up with like a list of supplements. He's done blood work for me to make sure I'm like on point. So I just kind of follow his guidance, and I have a list of supplements I take in the morning, and then I make sure by a few months later that I'm on top of everything. So I know that's a common question. I wish I had a better answer.
Is he talking about iron in your blood? Like,
Yeah,
like...
but heme iron specifically comes from meat. So that's one that's often asked about if you are going plant-based or vegan.
Got it.
So I can't, I have anecdotal thoughts in my mind, but I don't want to say anything wrong. All that I know is that I have taken a pretty judicious approach to taking supplements and vitamins that have been encouraged by the doctors that I've learned from and respect.
Yes. Okay. So that, I'll have to look into that. I've never heard of heme iron.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of iron in your system, and I know that there's a lot of iron in our in our food as well. Our spinach and other greens. It's amazing when you start really looking at food. It's perfectly made. God created our food to just have everything we need.
Mm-hmm.
And you have some people that are just like, oh, eat for the season. And there are others, like Dr. Furman says, we have freezers. You eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We have refrigerators and freezers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you have a question, okay, I see. Okay. So anything from Mary, anything that would help for eye floaters. I had an injury in both eyes. I see flashes, black dots, and shadows that obstruct my vision every time I move my eyes. That sounds like a scratch retina. That's something that the doctor says it's permanent. What do you? I don't. Mario's not a doctor. Do you know anything about that?
I got nothing for that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I was having an issue with that. And quick story. So my husband's company, they rent all of Universal Studios for the college, the university that he works for, and that's our Christmas gathering is there. And so when you are at Universal Studios and there are no lines, you go from one roller coaster to another ride, to another ride, to another ride. And within like half an hour to an hour, we had gone on every single ride. So the next day, I am like, I have to go Christmas shopping, and all of a sudden I'm seeing these flashes, and I thought, well, maybe my phone is ringing. So I looked at my phone wasn't ringing. Then I'm seeing it again when I went outside, and I thought maybe it was the sun, and it wasn't the sun. And towards the end of the evening, I get home really late, and I'm telling my husband that I'm getting these flashes, and especially if I'm looking at a certain way. And now you got to look that way all the time, because now you're seeing these flashes, and it's like this vicious circle. So I happen to have like a 24/7, that I can call if anything I need, telemedicine, which is part of my little shop now bag. And so I called them, and Robert thought I was having a stroke or something, and so we called, our telemedicine group. And the woman was great. She said, it sounds like you have a tear in your retina. You don't have symptoms of a stroke. You can go to the ER if you want to, or you can wait till Monday and call your ophthalmologist. So I waited till Monday. I saved myself a lot of time and a lot of money just waiting until Monday. And I had a detached, it was like a tear. I had a slight tear that was creating that issue. And I had it, lasered, which was, I probably wouldn't have done it. Because it does heal itself. But, you sit down in the doctor's office, and if you don't do it, you could go blind. So you do it's like fear, it's like, so I did it.
Yep.
But as we were done, and I said to him, well, how did this happen? I mean, I've never had issues like this before. And he says, you can bump your head, go on a bike ride, go on a bumpy ride. I'm like, oh, I know what that happened. I went on one roller coaster ride one after another. So I would say, check with your ophthalmologist, and check that out. But we cannot give any advice on that. But that happened to me. Okay, so Super Blue says, where can I find a chart that gives me nutrition value on each vegetable? Well, Dr. Furman has some stuff, and you can Google pretty much anything. What do you say, Mario?
I would say the same.
How have you learned about nutrition and the nutrients? Because I know that Dr. Furman has a lot of books about that too.
Yeah,
I had one out here.
Fasting and Eating for Health. One of his old books, one of the first health books I ever read.
Which one?
Fasting and Eating for Health. It's an old book, but it is one of the best ones. Then Eat to Live by Dr. Furman is another one. How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger is another one that was big for me. Those are definitely the staples right now. And then I'm blanking on another one about food economy by Dr. Michael Hyman, I want to say. It's Pat. I'm blanking.
That's okay. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. You just have to put it on your search engine and just say nutritional value of vegetables. And Dr. Furman goes even further, and he talks about a scale that is the best, to have when it comes to the nutritional score.
Yep.
I forget what the name of that scoring system is. I think it starts with an A, but I'm blanking out on that, Mario. But that is one of the things that you can do, is just search it. That's the research. Like I said to Mario when we first met, for every 1 hour that we do in the classroom, I research about 3, especially when I first got started. And I've read every label that I buy. And if it has things that you can't even recognize as food, like if you are in the outside of a grocery store and you're in the produce section, there are no ingredients on your food. It's banana, it's a cabbage, but when you go into the center of the grocery store, now you start getting into all these names and chemicals, and that's not food, and your body doesn't recognize it as food. Have you noticed a difference in your digestion, Mario, as you've continued to embrace more plant food base? Did you ever have any issues with acid reflux or asthma, which was, for me, that was one of the things that I dealt with?
Yeah, I had acid reflux my entire life growing up. pretty badly. Thought it was just normal, something I had to live with. I was like, this is childhood heartburn. Made no sense. And I didn't try and address it. It went away when I changed the way that I eat. I don't know what the trigger was. It doesn't come back ever, but as soon as I made that shift to ditching the standard American diet to eating plant-based, my acid reflux gone. Also had asthma as a kid. I don't know if I grew out of it, but it left right around the same time as well.
Yeah.
So those were two things that like I constantly was fighting with.
It's amazing. Well, there is so much going on in the classroom. There's so much that you can do. And to learn more, there are workshops that you can join. There's the New Truth series, which, I'm creating these new truths. Like, people think that health is hereditary, that if your father or mother had cancer or diabetes or heart attacks or whatever, that somehow you're going to inherit that doom as well. And what I'm here to tell you, and one of the things that we talk about in the I Am the Solution workshop that I do, the next one being April 29th through May 1st, is that you don't inherit your genes. Only 1% of your DNA contributes to disease. What you inherit are the family recipes, and those you can recreate and reinvent. Like, I'm sure both Mario and I have, just taken something. You look at it; it's got too much oil. Okay, can I make this without the oil? Yes, you can. Can I make it with a stir fry with water, or even wine that burns off, or broth? There's so many different ways, and we're going to talk about all those things. With the Raw Vegan Challenge, we're going to really focus on raw vegan. But if you decide that you want to incorporate less of the oils, less flesh foods, less processed, that's a good start. Like Mario said, just do one thing at a time, one step at a time. And that's how you climb a mountain. You don't climb a mountain on the top. You first of all, you have to find the proper shoes, hiking boots. That's the first step. And then, figure out, okay, how am I going to get there? How am I going to prepare for it? But then once you get to the mountain, you start with one step. And the next thing is, when you're halfway there, you look down and you say, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. And that's what nutrition and retraining your brain when it comes to health and nutrition. Mario, can you give any tips about that as your experience as well?
I would say one thing at a time, like you had said. It's all about taking a small step and adapting it to your lifestyle and then improving from there. So I think that's like the basic for the foundation, is build your foundation, and everything else after that can follow. And then also finding friends who care about this as well makes it so much more fun. I've met a whole new world of people just through going to trade shows and cooking events, and those have become some of my best friends. So you're not alone. There's other people who have this interest. I know food is such a touchy subject for people, but you could find people that relate to the journey that you're on as well, especially through, conversations like this.
Well said. Thank you so much. And Mario, you can find him at tryingveganwithmario.com. He's also in Roku. Those are shows that he did a couple of years ago before the virus struck. And well, I'm going to say it politely. Yeah, the world changed. And so now, we have to reinvent ourselves. And that's what we're doing with our food. We're reinventing our food. We're finding the same pleasures in food, but we're embracing the nutritional aspect of it as opposed to the social or mindless aspect of eating. So I want to challenge you. Raw Vegan Challenge starts April 18th. The first meeting that we have is April 19th, which is our first class that we're going to have together. We'll probably meet beforehand just to kind of get to know one another. And hopefully Mario can join us when that is. But just remember, go to whenyouneedafriend.com, check out the workshops, and the 30-day raw vegan challenge will be there. And hopefully you will have your testimonial of what happens to you when you experience, when your body experiences food the way it is. Thank you, Mario, for joining us today. Thank you all for asking your questions. And this is going to be continued. So thank you, Mario.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. We'll see you guys tomorrow.